Well, moving along, Brian, should we layeth the smacketh down on the latest episode of As the Bloodline Turns? They had a couple of matches that got in the way on SmackDown last night, Friday, July 7th, I guess. They had a couple of, but once you got past the matches, it was a good wrestling show. What'd you think?
I mean, it was interesting in a number of respects. It was at the Garden. I mean, that's a big part of the story there. And it was a big success at the Garden. And what a big success is now is like 14,000 people or whatever.
No, 15,182 is what they announced.
What did they sell out the Felt Hallway?
Well, yeah. See, but now okay, in this day and age and at these ticket prices, the last thing we're going to do is scoff at 15,000 people. But let me ask you this that nobody has really been asking. They say, well, the Garden of Holes, they used to sell out every month with 19 or 20,000 people, and then they'd sell out the Felt Forum for the closed circuit. And every month, well, yes, everything used to draw everywhere all the time. Isn't that a movie? But they legitimately sold out this setup. I don't know whether it's 15,182 or whatever, but even with the entranceway that blocks those seats off, they legitimately sold this out. Not only that, but they were telling the talent, we can't give you any tickets for family or friends or mistresses or whatever, because we're sold out to the bone. So they were really sold out of tickets. But the question that I want to ask now, that has anybody else asked this? I know the set looks pretty on TV, but what's 4,000 tickets at even the cheapest general admission price for a ticket to Madison Square Garden now, because they announced it was the biggest gross ever in the history of the Garden. So the average ticket price through the roof, even if it wasn't most people. So is it $50? What's 4,000 times 50?
You're good with math.
See, I've already got it. I was asking you.
I was eating a blueberry.
God damn it. Now, you blueberry eating motherfucker. All right. It's 200,000. Is that Purdy set worth $200,000?
You know what? After that Puerto Rico show where we saw a building without a set, and the Garden's a small building. For a big building, it's a small building. And if you lose that set...
It's an intimate 20,000 seat arena. It really is.
Yeah, it's not a 20,000 seat arena. I mean, it doesn't even look like the Garden anymore. You don't see the entranceway. You don't see anything. And there's nothing that actually looks like the classic Garden.
Yeah.
It's just another building. And they never had a long entranceway because it was a smaller... The way it was constructed, again, I'm not going to
Well, it was constructed in the 60s, and that's the way they were constructing NBA sports arenas at that time, where they didn't have all the luxury boxes, and they didn't have the expansive, floor area as much, and a blah, blah, blah. And it's in the middle of New York City, so they were working with space. They got as many people in there as they could. But you're right, when the old Garden... with just like WrestleMania 10, the side entranceway that you saw across from the hard camera, it was 50 feet to the ring. But when you looked out from the ring, there were 19,000 some people, and everywhere you couldn't see any open space. So that's a heck of a view, which I have seen, not to toot my own horn, but toot, toot. But so is it worth $200,000 to have that set?
No. In my eyes, no. How much does it cost to bring the set there?
And set it up. I have no fucking idea. Can you imagine the goddamn trucks hauling all that shit going down through Midtown Manhattan?
34th Street, yeah. I can't imagine, no.
Christ on a cracker. Anyway, so it was SmackDown in Madison Square Garden, the biggest gross ever, sold out for the seating setup. And the first thing they see is the Usos entrance. And they get a big pop, and the Usos chants and the one fingers. And they start to do the interview crowing about Roman Reigns getting beat. And then Heyman and Solo interrupt them. And they walk down to the ring, speaking. And I look, Paul now, it's a fucking rib. He's got a microphone. He's got those two big heavy belts. He has to, wearing a suit, step through the ropes. I'm surprised they don't have him fucking patting his head and rubbing his stomach at the same time. But anyway, the Usos tell Paul, shut up. They didn't say shut the fuck. The crowd will handle that in a minute.
It was an ad lib there.
Yeah, shut up, but he won't do it because only one man in the WWE or in the world or whatever he phrased it tells me to shut up. He's talking about Roman, and then Solo puts his hand over Paul's microphone, and everybody looks shocked. And just then, Roman's music plays. And here he comes, and as he's making his entrance, they go to a break. So we're going to break now in mid-interview. The promos have a break.
Not just any promo, but the promo where he's going to confront the cousins who just super kicked him.
My God, the Allies are marching through the streets of Berlin, and Hitler's diving into a hole, but we'll be right back after this word from Preparation H. So, and it was only like 10 minutes into the show after they had done the recap of the Bloodline Civil War tag team match at the top, and then, you know, their beauty shots, and then they use all the business we just talked about. It's only 10 minutes that they go to break. So they come back. But now we found out why they went to break there. Because elsewise they'd have had to have a commercial-free show. Because when they come back, Roman... I understand all this stuff is over. But at the same time, Roman gets in the ring, turns his back on his family members that he's just had this big Civil War match with and got beat by, and still tells Madison Square Garden to acknowledge him while they just stand there and don't do anything. To get everybody's shit in when there's animosity, it looks awkward sometimes. Do you see what I'm saying to you?
I completely agree with you. There shouldn't be any sense of comfort from anyone while any of these people are interacting right now.
That's because they weren't on a Helix Sleep mattress.
That's right.
But anyway.
Our good friends at Helix Sleep.
And boy, we're going to be hearing from them and more people soon. So basically, then the crowd starts chanting, "You got beat, you got beat." And Roman, this is supposed to be a tribal court proceeding. I guess wrestlers' court in the ring, but I get the idea of a tribal court bringing someone up on tribal charges or whatever, but and I'm not suggesting they should have had palm trees and a fucking sandbar in the goddamn ring. But they didn't really... This is just like an interview that broke out into, why is Roman supposed to show up to be tried when they have no offense? That's what his story is. Neither one of you is the tribal chief, so how can this be tribal court?
That was the Saddam Hussein argument when they tried him in Iraqi court. He's like, who are you to be a judge in Iraq? I'm Saddam Hussein.
You know, Roman could have just sent a goddamn postcard saying, fuck you, I'm on the beach. You have no pullover. This is not a subpoena. I don't know.
I thought there would be some other family members there of some sort.
Not the Paul Heyman wise man, but like, goddamn, if King Curtis was still alive, it would have been great. Just, somebody like neutral, not in the family. Who's the wise man for all the Polynesians? Here comes King Curtis.
Can you imagine if one of these things was happening and Afa and Sika just stood in the back, dressed like Afa and Sika, arms crossed, watching it? It would mean so much.
Yeah. Anyway, so they went ahead with it anyway, because the Usos say they will not be manipulated, and they showed a video. It marked Exhibit A. And it was a good video, but it was basically a compilation of all the examples of Roman Reigns pushing the Usos around, talking down to them, pie-facing them, kicking them out, depriving them of dessert. I mean, just every kind of offense. And one almost wondered by the time it was over with, why did they put up with all of this to this point, right? This is way beyond. But anyway, at that point, the crowd started a chant that they weren't just muting a word, they just dropped the goddamn audio completely out of the program for like 15 or 20 seconds.
The whole show, yeah.
And you know, I'm thinking, my God, if they don't shut up, the guys in the ring have no way of knowing when the audio is being muted by the network. right?
I thought they had to know, because I thought that's why maybe they were delaying it a little bit.
No, I think they were figuring, well, we can't talk over whatever this, I'm assuming it was fuck, but who knows? But I think they knew they don't have any official way of knowing we're pressing the button, we're on solid mute for 20 seconds, or they're trying to mute fuck,
but
whatever.
But if you're in the ring and you hear a chant of fuck every few seconds, you have to figure the network's either dropping the whole thing out, or at least that part, so I shouldn't talk.
Yeah, and that's why, they were kind of milking around, but I'm thinking, my God, if anybody, because the Usos look like they get a little excited. So I'm thinking, if anybody says anything important, we're not going to hear it. And then Roman responded to them when they got audio back, no, I didn't. So I assume it's you fucked up. But again, whereas AEW will not even, I think they've given up. They tried to bleep shit for a while. They've obviously told people to stop saying things because there was that plethora of shit for no reason and etc. But TBS or TNT, the Warner folks, they were not as conscientious as Fox is. Fox just says, fuck all the audio until they quit. So anyway, Roman then tells the Usos, hey, that's not who I am. That's who I was forced to be. It's like, you made me do this, right? I did it for you. And then they had to drop the audio out again because it is New York and they're a bunch of foul-mouthed, little potty-mouthed people up there.
We're not as bad as Philly.
Well, that's true, but what is? So
that's true.
Then the Roman says, I didn't need the bloodline. The bloodline needed me. And I mean, I'm not doing justice to this because he was fired up and he was emoting and he did a great job with all this. He was indignant. He was mad and all these different things. And then finally he says, I don't need this shit anymore. I don't want it. I'm done. And he and Jay both throw their microphones down and Roman puts, and this was milked to the nth degree, that cow had not a drop left, takes his lei and takes it off and puts it on Jay's neck. And he was crying. Roman was, did you see the tears running down his face?
I did.
I can't imagine what he was thinking of. He was his possibly he was thinking about his fucking paycheck flying out the window if he ever lost this spot. That would be a tragedy at this point because he's the man. But he throws down the belt. He gets on his knees in front of Jay like he's just named him or appointed him as the new tribal chief, and he's just done with all of it. He's a broken man. And then he reaches up and hits Jay right in the balls. Boom. And Jimmy is like, what the fuck just happened? And it takes him a second to realize it. And he gets on Roman and Solo pulls him off. And as he throws Jimmy across the ring and Jay's selling his nuts, Solo sees the lei laying there. Is that the proper way to say that? The lei was laying there. They had laid the lei down. Lay, lady, lay. Lay, lady, lay. That'd be badass. If we laid the lady.
No, I'm quoting Dylan, not Moxley.
Oh, so Moxley, you're saying sounds like Dylan.
No, I would never say that about Bob Dylan.
Dylan sounds like Moxley.
No, I mean, now I'm picturing their two voices. Nothing alike. Well, maybe a little bit.
Well, see?
Hey, Renee.
Once upon a time, you used mine, pin pine, didn't you?
Just walk away, Renee.
Well, there you have it. I thought that was the left bank, though.
No, that was the Four Tops. I'm stealing their material.
So Solo was looking at that lei, and the camera gets it, and the people got it too, because he looked back at Roman, who's still, like about to get up and go, what the fuck's going on here? And he studied, and the fans start chanting, put it on, put it on. And Solo starts to hand it to Roman, but he didn't quite hand it to Roman, and Jay attacks him, and then Solo levels Jay. And Roman Superman punches Jimmy, and they go to the floor. And they tied Jay up in the ropes, and they hit Jimmy with the belt over and over again, or Roman did. and made Jay watch the whole thing and then hit Jimmy with the stairs. And then Jay got free and tackled Roman, but Solo spiked him. And then Roman says, finish him. And Solo splashes Jimmy through the fucking announce desk. And they finally go to the break. And now we're 35 minutes into the show. And that's why they went to the break, I guess, on Roman's entrance. But that's what the people came to see. But there was a lot of emoting and talk. And then they come back after the break, and Jimmy's on the stretcher. And he's being wheeled to a wambulance. And they recapped what had happened before. And Jay's, I'm with you, Jimmy, I'm with you. And the ambulance pulls out, and off they go. And we're like, holy shit.
And they told him what hospital he's going to in Manhattan. And he said, I'm out of here. And he came back.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was long. And I actually thought the beatdown was too long. And then there was a comeback. I mean, you calling it was like listening to a guy call a football game in the 30s.
Yes.
Nonstop, like this and this and then this.
And it took finally the officials came down. There was Adam Pearce and his crew of suited stooges, but it took them like 5 to 7 minutes to notice that there was a slaughter taking place in the middle of Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, where are the cops? Cop jumped in the ring when Roddy Piper shoved Cyndi Lauper with his foot. There's no cops here for this?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, the Usos didn't look as fragile as Cyndi did.
You think Heyman, like, in terms of arms and shoulders, is in the best shape he's ever been in from these long segments, just holding those belts?
Just hold it. That's, I know. He was out there for half an hour with those fucking... Maybe he's had like a replica made that is like of very realistic looking plastic or something. No, he's got to have 30 pounds on his shoulders, plus the extra fucking 180 or 200 pounds around his midsection.
Oh, stop it. I'll leave him alone. Be nice. It's been a long time since that match.
Which I won.
Which you won.
The one I won.
You took his pants off. That's the match.
Yes, it was.
You got me distracted here.
I got you distracted by taking off Paulie's.
You know
pants.
why? Because I was trying to remember. Did he have purple underwear? He ran away.
It was light blue colored underwear with a white waistband. He didn't even go to the trouble. Remember when I got fucking stripped? In the Superdome and every night of the Myriad in Oklahoma City, I had big boxer shorts with goddamn large red hearts on them. And I'll have you know that I couldn't find big boxer shorts with large red hearts on them, so I had to get white boxer shorts and a red Sharpie and make my own.
No.
Yes, I did.
No, you did not.
Yes,
Get out of here. I did not know that. Get out of here.
Red, thick red marker and drew those fucking hearts on. I couldn't find them. I'm like, this is the most classic comedy fucking prop of all time, and I couldn't find them anywhere in the state of Louisiana.
Jimmy Hart used those too in WWF. Whenever he got his pants ripped off.
That's the thing to do. And it was even more apropos for Jimmy Hart.
Oh, because they're little red hearts.
There you go.
You should have called him. He probably had a hookup.
Well, this was, I was on the sperm of the moment. I realized I was getting stripped.
When you see a segment like this, and again, it went a long time, and you said the right thing. It gave the fans there what they came to see. They came to watch the show. They didn't come to see matches. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
You're seeing more and more chatter because more and more people are talking about it. And if they're talking about it, there's probably a reason behind it about Roman Reigns should be getting an Emmy for his performance on the wrestling program on Fox. What are your thoughts? Because, I mean, again, I was watching this, and at one point, I'm like, okay, for the psychological aspect of the storyline, I understand what he's doing. But on the other hand, I'm like, is he auditioning for every casting agent right now?
Possibly.
Look at the range of emotions I could do in 20 minutes in front of a live audience.
And see, I think you asked me one time before, I said, it's an insult to what the wrestling business is supposed to be to award anyone publicly for their great acting. But at this point, since the WWE and really the wrestling business anymore, and the only interesting thing about it is Roman Reigns' fucking acting, can we come up with at least a category like best acting in a sports presentation? Or, I don't know. But it's they have successfully, I guess, created an audience at Madison Square Garden, the place that Vince Sr. says, as goes the garden, goes the business. The hallowed hall, their shrine. Now people sell it out and come to see this dramatic rendition punctuated by brief wrestling matches. 30 years ago, the crowd would have set the seats on fire if they got the matches at a wrestling show, at a WWF show that they got on this program, and they were happy to pay the highest prices in the history of the world to fucking see it.
Yeah, even the live Piper's Pits at Madison Square Garden could only go so long.
Oh my God. And then they might want to get in the ring and fucking get the hook themselves to get on with it. I remember how impatient those people were.
What do you think about the idea they set these records with this Garden show, and this, more than likely, is the final Madison Square Garden show under Vince McMahon's sole ownership?
Well, actually, it's kind of fitting. It's apropos because he took over wrestling in Madison Square Garden when it was running 12 times a year and selling a building out every time with people, not sets. And he didn't like the wrestling business, so he wanted to be sports entertainment. And 40 years later, they can only run once or twice a year, and they don't draw as many people as they used to, but they pay ridiculously more money to come, and there's almost no wrestling on the show. It is now officially the South Park episode, WTF, where Vince came to scout the kids' backyard wrestling federation. And all they do is get in the ring and a spotlight and emote. How apropos.
Hey, Jim, before we go further here, I wanted to mention to you, because you brought up, logically, how there's not much wrestling on this episode of SmackDown. I was surprised before it aired, people started getting in touch with us on Twitter. There was an LA Knight Hit Row confrontation before the show went on the air. LA Knight got a monster reaction in the Garden, and they didn't put it on the show because they didn't have enough time for it. It's blown up on their YouTube. It's like the most popular video off SmackDown, not the Bloodline, but the LA Knight confrontation with Hit Row.
Good Lord.
So we should check that out before, either the Drive-Thru or whenever else we record.
Well, yes, and let me tell you what else they had on this program that prevented them from showing that hot piece of video. And why did they do it before the show went on the air? Was it ever supposed to be on this program?
It is exclusive to YouTube as of right now, I believe.
So LA Knight's YouTube exclusive videos are getting more hits than... Because we know it wasn't because of Flop Dollar. Except, did he fall down again?
I haven't watched it yet, but I shall.
If he fell down again, it may be because of him. But anyway, so the first match of the SmackDown program, the bell rang 42 minutes into the show. It was for the U.S. title with our boy Austin Theory against Sheamus. And they started at 100 miles an hour, throwing fucking shots, and boom, 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 and literally went 30 seconds and went to the break. 30 seconds. I was like, what? And they came back about 3 minutes later, 3.5, and they did a little bit more things, and they went under 3 minutes, and they went to the break again. And I was thinking, I'm now pretty much completely disinterested in whatever the fuck they're going to do. And when they came back, they were going back and forth, and suddenly Purely Deadly came to the ring, and Sheamus beat them up and then hit Theory with his finish, but only got a 2 count. And then here came Ridge and Butch, and they fought Purely Deadly, and there was chaos reigning at ringside, and Sheamus booted one of the Deadlies, and Theory schoolboyed him and pulled his trunks 1, 2, 3, and that was in 2 minutes. So they managed to have a match in 3 different segments where there was only like fucking 5 minutes of it shown on the air.
And I'm sure it was great.
I bet, it seemed like the people live were liking it.
Just want to make a correction. The Hit Row LA Knight confrontation is number 2 from SmackDown, behind the Tribal Court, but in front of Jey Uso's return to confront Roman Reigns.
Okay, well, that's important to know.
We have to keep it straight here.
Speaking of keeping it straight, at the 9 o'clock hour, they felt sure that the Bloodline was a sure thing enough that they could put any goddamn thing at the 9 o'clock hour, so we got Wallering with Waller. If you turned on SmackDown at 9 o'clock and you saw that face in the ring, would you stick around?
I don't want to put the guy down. I don't.
Who the fuck even knows who the fuck he is?
Well, they're trying in their own special way to get him over.
Well, in their own special way. You don't say, okay, this guy looks like every other nerd in the world and nobody knows who the fuck he is, so we're going to give him 20 minutes to talk to other people. All righty, so he brought out Edge.
You know what's crazy? I guess because the first segment went so long, and I didn't even look at the time, even though by the end of it, it felt like it was going really long, I didn't realize this was 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because the show moved by so quick because of that. I thought this was actually earlier in the show. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's the thing is the tribal court, you get enmeshed, involved, enraptured, invested in the Bloodline stuff, and then when it's over with, the matches go bang, 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 because there's nothing there, and then suddenly they talk to you for 20 fucking more minutes. But in this case, it was only about 8 minutes, because after 8 minutes, we found out that Edge was going to wrestle Waller tonight. Ah, shit. So then, did I miss anything in that?
I mean, he just started insulting Edge, and then he announced that Edge was going to retire, which Edge was upset about. And then he announced that he wasn't going to retire, he was going to fight Grayson Waller tonight, which would be the debut of Grayson Waller, who they've been showing on this show for weeks, and now we get to see him wrestle.
There you go. Speaking of wrestling, AJ Styles versus Karrion Kross with Mia Yim in AJ's corner, Scarlett in Karrion's corner. Karrion's corner. See, that would give him a talk show where he can go out there and have a big clock behind him. Tick-tock, tick-tock, it's time for Karrion's corner. So they started this. Well, Bailey had ding dong. Why can't Karrion Kross have TikTok?
I agree. Maybe a crow.
And then Karrion Kross could bring Andrew Dice Clay on, and Andrew Dice Clay could go hickory dickory dock. This chick was...
I don't know if Fox is going to allow that on the air. They're having enough problems with the Bloodline promos.
So with AJ and Karrion, they started at 100 miles an hour. Karrion Kross is beating AJ up, and then after about a minute and a half, Scarlett tried to interfere, and Mia took her out, and AJ hit the phenomenal flying forearm and pinned him 1, 2, 3. It didn't last 2 minutes. So I hope that nobody out there has got a big boatload of Karrion Kross stock. I believe the value has dropped in recent weeks.
Yeah, there's nothing else to say about that. I mean, you barely remember he's on the show, and then they had him choke out AJ a few weeks ago, and this is the follow-up to that.
Well, by God, he's learned his lesson now, hasn't he? It takes a good man to beat him, but it don't take him long. So anyway, then we got Oscar for an in-ring promo. And she got in the ring, and she screamed at us for about 10 seconds, and then Bianca Belair ran out, hit the ring, and just started beating the shit out of Oscar.
What'd you think of that? She didn't skip, she didn't smile, she ran out there and just started throwing.
Well, yes. I mean, this was, I'm about to get to the chaotic nature of this. It was the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. That's what I'm saying. Oscar's in the ring, screams for 10 seconds. Bianca hits the ring and beats her up, but Charlotte comes out and jumps Bianca. But Io Sky comes in and hits Oscar with the briefcase. But there's Bailey as Bianca gets on Bailey. And Io tries to cash the case in on Oscar, but she couldn't quite because she didn't hand it to the referee. So the referee didn't ring the bell, and Charlotte kicked Io Sky. And then they all quit fighting. And we went to the break, and that whole thing didn't last 2 minutes. So it's not that it wasn't exciting. It was just like somebody speaks for 10 seconds. Here comes people running in, girls running in the ring. beating each other up, and then they just quit, and we're done. 105 seconds or whatever. So that was the fastest 2 minutes in SmackDown.
When they formatted the show, did they know the Bloodline was going to go as long as it did? Is this intentional?
It doesn't look like it.
Is it intentional that they want just small matches? Have they realized that it won't chase away the viewers? It may keep their attention in between the Bloodline stuff that people care about.
But that wasn't even a short match. That was like, go, run, now. We've got to do it now. I mean, I've given instructions like that on live TV or live to tape when you need to get something done. Is that just go do it? It's like a panic thing, but
that's what I picture. I picture like the hallways of the Ed Sullivan Show, just people being pushed around like, go, 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 you're on.
Go. Hey, one night in Baltimore, Eddie Edwards was supposed to run in on a Ring of Honor match at the finish, and he fucking forgot. And I was in the goddamn truck, and I'm like, send Eddie. Send Eddie. And I hear back, we can't find Eddie. I'm like, what the fuck? And I jump out of the truck, and I run down the ramp back into the building we're using. As I come in, and there's the goddamn curtains, and they found Eddie, and they're rushing him. And I've got my arms as I'm running to him. I've got my arms out like, where were you? And he's got that face on like I fucking forgot. And I grabbed him by the left arm, and I arm whipped him through the entranceway. I said, go do it now, and shot him. Oh, fuck me. Plus, it was in the middle of summertime, as I recall, so it was about 92 degrees with high humidity, and I was in a fucking suit. All right, so Edge then had a match. Oh, to answer your question about the time, they went to break on purpose in the Roman entrance because they knew, I'm sure, that the second segment was going to be equally as long or a little bit longer than the first one, which would have been 15 minutes. It turned out to be 25 minutes. I have a feeling that there was some element of cutting through the rest of the show to make, because you can't just say, okay, we'll take 10 minutes out of the next segment. The next segment might be 8 minutes. So you have to, on the fly, start barking commands, whoever's in charge of that, hopefully not Vince, cut a minute off this match, cut a minute off this live interview, cut a minute off Seg 7, drop this fucking pre-tape out of Seg 9, whatever the case. And and then if somebody else goes long, then you want to fucking set them on fire. But speaking of setting people on fire.
I knew that was going to be the transition.
Here's somebody that deserves to be immolated. Grayson Waller taking on Edge. And I wrote, Waller looks like he belongs in AEW. Because he's the same generic, young-faced, generic haircut.
Young-faced,
generic haircut, bland body. I don't know how this... Vince must not have as much power as we thought anymore. If this he looks like he ought to be Muffin Top Taylor's cousin from Australia. Anyway, they went 2 minutes to the break. Then they came back and they went a little while on this one. This was apparently the wrestling match of the evening. And Edge finally won with a spear. And I'm saying, okay. So Grayson Waller... How does getting beat help this guy earn a talk show or get over or be considered a fucking star? If he ain't good enough to fucking win the match you're booking him in at this point, then how about just don't book him in it? Only book him in shit he can win. I didn't understand that. Obviously Edge is a bigger star, but what the fuck?
He's obviously someone they like. They liked him in NXT. They liked him enough to bring him up here. They liked him enough to give him this interview segment out of nowhere. And it hasn't really been for me. I've been waiting to see him in the ring because I didn't watch him in NXT, or if I did, I don't remember it. I was a little surprised about the physique. And I was surprised by the finish, but I wasn't really into the match. I haven't been into Edge in a while. Edge is kind of... I need Edge to do something else. I think.
You need Edge to get a little more edgy.
Somehow, yeah. And not in a stagey kind of way. His promos got very, performy, and it took me out of any of his stuff.
Performative, I think, would probably be a better term than performy.
Performy.
Performy?
Okay. Performy.
Well, but now the performance we've all been waiting for, because the main event on the show is we're back in the ring for an interview. Well, first in the locker room, Paul's there with Roman, and Paul tells Roman Reigns, hey, Jay's back in Madison Square Garden. Apparently, they found the one hospital in New York that can fucking admit and process and give a prognosis on a patient, and somebody can leave in an hour and 10 minutes. So Jay's back in Madison Square Garden. He's looking for Roman Reigns, and Roman says, well, I'll be in the ring. And they go to the break. And now they come back, and at least they spared us. They did another entrance for the people. The whole fucking Roman Solo and Paul with the music, and another acknowledge me. And I'm thinking they got 8 minutes left on the air, right? And as soon as they acknowledge him, the Usos music hits. And they're looking for Jay, and they're looking for Jay, and here comes Jay through the arena. He's a man of the people. He bumped into a fucking balding plumber about halfway down the cheap seats, knocked him ass over tea kettle, continued on his way.
That's my gimmick.
And in the ring he came. See, he was giving Roman a little psychological warfare. Roman used to do that, didn't he? Isn't that where Moxley stole it? But anyway, so he comes through the arena, and the first thing his Solo comes out to meet him, he tackles Solo. Boom, 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 and he dispatches Solo, and then he anguishes about whether to attack Roman. And finally, he grabs a chair and rolls in the ring, and he whacks Roman. And goddamn, but then there's Solo back, and he grabs the chair, and Jay hits a super kick on Solo and takes that chair and just wears him, just beats him like grandma's rug with that chair. While Roman and Paul bailed out to the entranceway and were watching from a safe distance. So you know that's going to make the next tribal court highlight video. And then Jay got Roman's belt. And he cuts the final promo that he's judge, jury, and executioner. And he made the challenge to Roman, me and you one-on-one. Let's settle this, accept my challenge. So now they've made an interesting main event marquee matchup out of one of the Usos against Roman Reigns. I don't think anybody thinks he's going to win the belt, and I don't think anybody cares at this point. Remember, we talked about it. You couldn't break the Usos up when everybody was wondering what was going to happen and make one a babyface and one a heel, or even one you'd have an odd Uso. But now they've kept them together as a team, but they've managed to, because of their different personalities that they portrayed in this, they've managed to elevate one to where the people just want to see him fight Roman, even if they're not thinking. Some of them may think he'll take the belt. He's not going to, but most people won't care. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't think you could have Jey Uso win the belt. I mean, in a way, I still wonder if I still think it's supposed to be the Cody trajectory, but who knows? If they are teasing an eventual Solo turn. I don't know if Solo's that guy. I mean, it would instantly elevate him, and he's been portrayed as nothing but a badass. We really have not seen him presented weak, even when he gets beaten up with chairs or pinned.
He comes back quickly.
I mean, Yokozuna got the belt, funny enough, another family member, but more about someone coming in, being presented like a badass and quickly getting the belt. And you just kind of started to believe they were the champion. I don't know if that would work with Solo. That's, I guess, the question. They're obviously going to do Jay versus Roman at SummerSlam. They're teasing the Solo babyface turn. Where do you see this going? Or what should they do now? Or can you even answer that question?
Well, I would be highly surprised if Solo turns anytime soon, because that would be very quick. And they've been milking this, again, for a while, but also it would diminish it. They can tease Solo, and because Solo's such a man of few words and has the stern demeanor and blah, 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 they can tease that for a long time. And people will believe it can happen because it already happened with the Usos. But another turn that quickly would step on the first turn, and it would lessen the second turn's impact. And then where do you go? You've got a lot of teases that you can tease now, but once the candidate commits, then he's either going to win the race or not. So I don't think they want to answer the Solo question anytime soon. And again, SummerSlam for Roman and Jay is great. And then I don't think Solo's not going to win the belt either. It's not going to, and that's nothing against him, but he's not going to be the undisputed WWE champion anytime in the next couple of years. Cody, it'll be Cody or it'll be somebody else before it's either Uso or Solo. But I don't think they even need to pull the trigger on Solo till the end of this year.
Well, we shall see, because again, they're teasing it now. And it's not just this week. They're starting to amp it up a little.
They teased us on Cody winning the title for fucking a year.
5 years. Oh, a year.
Well, yeah. I mean, a year straight. But no, again, unless they have another Samoan or someone else that can join Roman's side with Paul, they're not going to break Solo away from him that quickly or in the very, very near future. That's what I'm saying.
If they don't have another member of the Samoan family ready to go, should they have a cousin Lance?
Lance and Oahi. Yes, they do. Yes, that's Lance, Lloyd, Larry, and Lawrence.
Well, that was SmackDown.
As well as Lyle and Oahi. He's the Zeppo Marks of the group, though. All right, that was SmackDown. What in the wide world of sports is going on and being smacked down over at the Wrestling News Arcadian Vanguard 605 branch of this happy family?
Find out what's happening with the happy family, Gummo and Chico, Harpo, Groucho, and even Zeppo. With the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, all the shows, all the information on Twitter at Superpodcast or on Facebook, facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. A few notes, of course. Get the wrestling news. Get it today. Get it every day for free. Your daily wrestling newscast. I said it in a weird way. Your daily wrestling newscast. Your daily wrestling newscast coming at you every single morning. Get all the news, everything that's happening in wrestling without opinion, without conjecture, without star ratings, without match reviews, just actual news. Get it directly from thewrestlingnews.com or wherever you find your favorite podcast. Look for Arcadian Vanguard's The Wrestling News. Also want to make mention, I am now on Instagram and Threads for anyone who wants to see show-related stuff that I may post, including some of the...
well, aren't you so fancy now? Instagram and Threads.
Well, people ask if you're going to get on these things. Threads is only available on your smartphone, and Instagram most people use through their smartphone. Do you intend to get on these?
Yeah, I intend to get on them like I intend to get on a goddamn patch of fucking red-hot fucking fire ants.
Exactly. Well, see my fire ants. Look for Great Brian Last on Instagram and Threads. I post some stuff like Guess the Program and various other things. Check it out today. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership! That's right, lady. Go through the archive today at 605pod.com. Available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. The Mothership.